If I had a nickel for every single time I have said or someone else has said AI has changed the game, I could afford all my anxiety meds about whether I'm keeping up with said game. We have lots of new categories entering into the scene. How we're running our businesses and how we're working our products is changing a lot. And what matters most to me is that we're seeing it matter in how we make purchasing decisions. People are changing platforms based on whether you have good AI, and they're also doing it based on vision. So for us product leaders, not only what we have already built, but how we talk about what we're going to build and how we talk about how we're experiencing moving through a rapidly changing technology is really, really important. But the fact of the matter is, especially in customer work, a lot of us are still figuring it out a bit. So this is from our own research, and about 80% of CX teams are still in the very early stages of AI adoption. They're still maybe a little bit more tactical, or they're experimenting, or they just haven't started at all. And that's because there's a lot of practical challenges in front of adoption, especially if you want it to work. You can throw a tool up there and scream at your team to use it and see what happens, or you can think about a strategy for adopting AI that's going to be more durable. One of the things I've been talking to my product team and my customer team about is how are we the tip of the spear for our customers on their AI strategies? You all are super busy with other things. Instead of making you figure out how to do this, can we figure out how to do this for you and really fold it into how you work? So the big question we've been asking ourselves, which is similar to what Yuman was saying, is if we were building ChurnZero from scratch today, how would we creatively, with this new tool in our toolbox, solve our customers' challenges, both that they have right now and that are coming in the future? And so today, on behalf of the ChurnZero team, I'm really excited to announce the ChurnZero AI Marketplace. And what this is a growing ecosystem of agents and assistants that are really embedded inside all of your workflows within ChurnZero. And it's not just the assistants, also the way that we're going to give you access to these tools. We know everybody's strategy looks a little different. It's scaling a little different, even within the same company between your different customer segments. We want to bring you solutions that are super flexible, super agile, and can grow and change as you go. As we think about AI at ChurnZero, we really want it to be not a bolt-on part of this. Again, when we talk about whether people are going to adopt and meaningfully adopt AI, it needs to be naturally integrated into how they work. If they have to go seek it out, they are less likely to use it. So we think now of ChurnZero AI as surrounding our entire platform. And for me, the driving force is, Yuman will yell at me for saying this out loud, it's less about the AI and more, how many of you got into customer work to fill out tasks and update fields? Like none of us. None of us do it for that. We got in it to connect with people, to help them understand outcomes, to help them with strategy. Like that's the work that lights us up. But somewhere along the way, we lost track of it because you need good data and you need this and that to run a successful program. I see AI as the way back to the work that we really love. And that's what lights me up as both a product person and a customer success professional. So let's meet the new digital crew. So really, these agents are going to be taking on the repetitive, the slow, the annoying, so that your team can focus on the strategy, the connecting, the consulting. And what we're trying to help you do is figure out how to scale your team and scale your operations without the traditional things we've used to scale, like headcount. How can we do things in a smarter, more efficient way and leave your team free to do the things that are truly human, as opposed to the things that we just have to do to get the work done? So I'm going to take you through a few of the agents that we're going to be releasing. I'm going to talk about 3 sets of agents. So our first set is some friends that are going to help you do data enrichment. So a lot of you would look at this and be like, yeah, our contact data probably looks like that. Some of you run SMBs are like, I wish our contact data even made it to this level. But when we think about data, it's so important to run targeted, meaningful, impactful engagements, but it's impossible to really keep it up. It gets stale quickly, it's prone to bias, it's prone to blind spots. And for some teams, it's completely something they can't keep up with. If I own 500 customers, I'm not keeping all that data up to date. It's just not happening. We want to stop managing data like it's 2015 with a set of agents that come in and really take that chaos and bring it to clarity. So this is introducing Archetype, Pulse, Vibes, and Herald. And these are ones that are going to help you go through and keep your role assignments up to date, automatically. Spot your real influencers and how they're engaging and whether that's waxing or waning. Understand sentiment and how that shifts over time. And then also identify your advocates before you need them so that they're already primed. And the idea then is automatically, without asking your team to do a bunch of time cleaning, we have really robust data to run all of our programs. So now from here, I now have a very clean understanding of who I'm working with, who influences what decisions, and whether we're interacting with the right folks. When our data is a lot more alive and accurate, so many doors open up. We see our relationships differently. We can be much more proactive in how we manage important stakeholders, how we understand the dynamics between people that work within the organization. We can also see those shifts before they start happening. And then they're also going to be able to inform all of the automation that can run inside of ChurnZero. Imagine having this data to better inform how you communicate, who you communicate with, what channels you use, the right messages going to the right people all the time. And then raise your hand if sales has been like, hi, we need a reference again, and you've been like, can you do anything yourself? Here we go. Now we have a solution. Sorry to my sales team, I love you very much. Now instead of saying, oh, we gotta go in and say like, check if they're a reference, are they still there, and all this rigmarole and roundabout, now we can see where someone's already advocate ready and where someone's actually trending in that direction, and probably equally as important, where it's like, oh, don't talk to that person. Like, avoid that one like the plague. So all of these are happening through our data enrichment agents. Next up that we're introducing are our signal detection agents. Now, the problem used to be for a lot of customer teams that we didn't have any data, and that is still true for some teams, where they're just out there winging it on vibes in some spreadsheet that everybody hates. But a lot of tools, and those of you that use ChurnZero, have helped customer teams be more informed than ever. We've got usage insights, we've got engagement tracking, maybe you've even gone so far as to do some sort of machine learning on that data. But there's still a lot of things about managing relationships that can be hard to understand. There's a lot of situational nuance. Risk doesn't always look the same, even between customers that look very much the same. And sometimes it doesn't come out and hit you in the face, and therefore you miss it, or you don't see it until it's too late. That's really the opportunity that these agents are trying to get to, is some of those under deepest water style of movements. The quiet quitting, the unstructured feedback, a lot of contextual empathy about what's going on in the relationship, that when you try to do that at scale, is very difficult to do. So I'd like to introduce you now to Harbinger, Beacon, Echo, and Spotlight. These guys are out here listening between the lines. They're really trying to understand what's going on with your accounts and bring those things forward proactively. So Harbinger's taking a look at your relationships and saying, where do we have risk here? Where do I have changes in behavior or in sentiment, organizational changes that may make a difference, priority or budgeting issues that may come and bite me? Beacon is its counterpoint, doing the opposite. Where do I have good buying signals? Where do I have positive intent? Where have I built up brownie points where now when I go and make an ask, I'm going to be met with reception? And then Echo and Spotlight are going into the fact that we have many wonderful conversations with our customers, but taking that unstructured stuff, all the meetings that happen, the random emails that are exchanged, the note that a CSM wrote in hieroglyphics, and you're like, I don't even know what this means. All of that can be really hard to digest in some way that is usable, not only for your team, but for the rest of the organization. How do I get good product feedback to my product team in a structured, repeatable, standardized way? How do I get good success stories for myself when I want to share them in an executive business review, or when my marketing team needs a new case study or a new reference? And these are going to help us do that automatically, so that then we're seeing these signals come up without having to go looking for them. Because it's the knowing the unknowns. Automation is great if you know what you're looking for, but you've got to know what you're looking for. And this solves some of those problems. Being able to sort through all the data that we have about your customers and understand where we've got risk, where we've got opportunity, also where we just have information that would be important to know, so that when you talk to that customer, you look super informed, super on top of things. So let's see some of this in action. The first thing is we're seeing on an individual account level how I can see signals for this account. So they'll become part of the timeline along with all your other options, and they give you basic information about what's happening. Summary, but there are also details And it's giving us a sense of the immediacy and the potential impact of this signal as well. But then super important, what you're seeing come up here, is it's telling me what to do about it. So it's not just that the signal is there, but based on all the information that we have about that customer, about your products, about your services, what's the best next step to take? From that recommendation, I can even click and take that next step. Oh, great, like this action plan, write me an email that goes off of that action plan and sends it out. So really trying to streamline that process of find the moment that matters and then do the right thing about it. But then the other thing that we hear is, all right, so great, I have all these signals, but maybe I own 100 accounts. How do I know what matters? Because I can't do everything. I only have 8 hours in a day. So on the Command Center, we are going to be introducing a new tab for signals where we're going to be using AI to prioritize the signals that you should pay attention to every single day. Prioritization based on potential impact to your customers, upcoming renewals, ARR at risk, other factors like your relationship scores or your churn scores, to say, all right, if you can only do 10 things today, these are the 10 things you should do. Taking that guesswork out, and not to eliminate the CSM's brain in the process. They should absolutely still be thinking those things through, but instead take a lot of the mental load off of them to figure out what will be most impactful. And then last but not least, like I said, we have a lot of really interesting things about our customers that are trapped inside the communications that we have with them, whether it's email or meeting transcripts, things like that. So a fairly normal exchange you might have with a customer. I've got product feedback in here. I've also got a success story in here. But the moment that I'm trying to find this later, this is like finding a needle in a haystack. I can't remember what meeting this was. I don't even know who I was at the time. I'm never finding this again. Instead, this can be now translated into structured objects for both success stories and for product feedback that are a clean, regulated part of the customer's profile, but also are super easy to share with the rest of your organization. Many of you know we just rolled out new ways of doing our own executive business reviews and talking to you about the CX charters and where you fall in comparison to other ChurnZero customers. And now these success stories will make it easy for us to fold in your own specific successes with us as we talk about what's going well and where we have opportunity to grow. Last but certainly not least, our third set of agents are our workflow assistants. So life is a little bit too short for generic AI, and what I mean by that is I got very fascinated by a study from MIT that came out about a month ago where they looked at AI adoption and they were trying to figure out why there was such a big spread in whether people's initiatives were being successful or not. And the TLDR on this was that they found when people either built their own stuff, and especially when they didn't embed AI into people's natural workflows, their success rate was in the low 30s. When they picked purpose-built tools and, most importantly, made sure those tools were available to people where they actually worked, success went up to 70%. So where the work happens, that matters. That's part of what we're thinking about here, is where are the heaviest things that our customers are experiencing, where do they have friction in their day, and how could we eliminate that friction? Introducing Intel, Scribe, Recap, and Consult. So Intel's going to go out and gather strategic insights about your business. Who's their target buyer? What is their messaging like? What does success metrics look like? All this stuff that we hope CSMs will go research, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Scribe is going to help you write contextual, very clear, smart responses to messages that come in. Recap helps you summarize long engagements. What happened, what's outstanding, what's coming next. And then Consult will make you a success plan that is completely customized to the customer that you are working with. We're really trying to find tools that, again, increase the team's acumen without taking away their authenticity. To me, that's the big question, is AI can be generic by nature if you don't give it the right inputs to feel real. So that's what all of this is about. This is where your customer data, our expertise, and customer work really come together in a meaningful way. So let's take a look at this in flow. So this is us creating a success plan with Consult. I can still create a plan manually if I wanted to, but otherwise I can say, you know what, AI, go ahead, review all my data, review my engagements, and make this plan for me. And it produces this plan, drafts out goals and steps within those goals, even gives me success metrics if they're part of the conversations that I've had. And then from here, I can just make the adjustments as I need. It's like a template, but now instead of assuming I'm going to have to touch every single template, because the point of a success plan is for it to be customized. If your team are not customizing their success plans, you're not doing success plans. We can talk later. And so now we have this all in one click. How many of your teams are stuck in their inbox? Okay, let's try again, honestly. How many of your teams are stuck in their inbox? Yeah, it's the nature of the game, because that's how we talk to customers. But how can we make these high volume activities that are a necessary part of engagement a little easier to get through? So we can see here in this GIF that I'm going into an email. I can quickly summarize this if this has been a long exchange. How many times have I said to my team, like, I'm not reading all of that, please just give me the TLDR on this. And then say, all right, go ahead and write me a message back to this. And not only write it back based on the context of that one thread, but on the larger context of the customer, and even subtle things, like the tone that your team is using within that thread. I'm sure you guys are all like, I talk a little bit differently to customer A than I might to customer B, because I have a bit of a different relationship in those. So again, when we're trying to make it feel authentic, how can we have these little nods that can come in? And then we have some of our insights here. And this is really about getting back to the work that we love. I'm not saying that researching your customers isn't important. It is. But it's also something a 22-year-old intern could do. And we pay, hopefully, our CSMs more than we would pay a 22-year-old intern. So let's stop having them do that work. So instead, can we go out and find all the information that they would need to know about a customer to have thoughtful conversations with them? Things about their public executives, recent news, insight into strategic initiatives that they have going on, and have this all delivered without any effort. And then actually, this is a sneak attack. This one's not in the list, and I don't have a name for it yet. But the idea is, how can we do hyper-personalization at scale? So let's imagine for a moment that you're using our new dynamic slides to create a PowerPoint presentation for a customer that has all of their data in there from one click. Imagine if you could then say, all right, I want to ask AI to look at slides 2, 3, and 4, and then write me next steps from that. And I want it to be a bullet list, and I want it to be 4 bullets. And then it does it. It's something that is important, and it's bringing that strategy and that authenticity and that customer specificness to the situation. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, this is all great. How do I get access to it? What does it cost? The big questions, yes? So for me, I'm actually equally excited, not just about the agents and assistants that are coming, but how we're going to give you access to them. What I've seen as I've talked to many of you is that where you're at with your AI journey, what your ELT and board are pushing, it's different. It's flavors of the same thing, but it's different. So what we didn't want is that it becomes this arduous thing of like, I got to upgrade to this thing and downgrade to this thing and move things all around. Instead, we wanted you to be able to test, scale what works, scale back what you no longer need. That's why we introduced the marketplace. This is going to be a credit-based place where, as we introduce new agents and assistants, they all join the marketplace. So they're there for you to experiment as we add new abilities. And then you can scale up and scale down however you'd like. This is a little bit of a closer picture. Each listing in the marketplace gives you a little bit of information about what that agent does, the outputs that they're going to create, the use cases that are covered by that agent. And then I can add in these different instances. Let's say I want to add in an instance of archetype where I'm doing role assignments. I can specify what accounts I want this agent to run on. I can specify how frequently I want these updates to be done, down to the time I want it to run, if that makes a difference to my business. And I can also estimate how many credits that will take me so that I can do some modeling about what I'll need to run this particular agent. And you can put multiple instances of the same agent on. Maybe I want to run archetype for SMB, but maybe like only once every 3 months because things don't change as much. But I want to run it more frequently on my enterprise customers. You'll have the flexibility to do all of that. And you'll have reporting that shows you what agents you're using, what's working, so that as you want to scale up, scale down, or as you want to devote some credits to testing and see if something matters to you and your team, you have the ability to do that, all self-serve. So while our team is certainly going to be there to help you understand what agents could make a difference for you, especially for your use cases, you'll be able to implement all of that on your own. But I have just a little bit more, so here we go. So the other thing we really wanted to think about with all these agents is, great, we have a lot of context on what it means to do customer work, and we have a lot of data about your customers. But what we don't have right now is a knowledge of your individual products and your individual processes. And so we are introducing new integrations with internal and external knowledge bases to be able to get that context and bring it into all these things that we're doing. Let's think about a pretty standard email where a customer asks a question about how to do something in your platform, asks for some best practices. Basic AI with maybe a little bit of information that's publicly available about your platform might be able to give an okay answer. I'm going to give this a C. But when I am able to layer in context on how my product works and on my processes, now I can get an email that A, gives better directions, step by step by step, B, gives better best practices, and then C also finds an opportunity to talk about the next thing, a feature you may not be using, an upsell that might be relevant based on this, all because we have that context of your products and of your processes. I'm going to anticipate a question. We are starting with Zendesk and Confluence, but those are not the only ones we're going to do. So certainly talk to your CSM about what you use, but we'll be adding more and more to these, and you'll have complete control over what articles we can see and things like that, so you have the security that you need. Finally, we are also introducing an MCP server. And for those of you that may not be familiar, this is basically like a translator between our data and an LLM. And what it means is that we're able to expose ChurnZero data in whatever chat assistant you all are using internally. I'm sure everybody's got a corporate account of OpenAI or Claude or something. So let's see this in action just to give a sense of how it works. So I'm in Claude here, and you can see that ChurnZero is now a source of information that Claude's aware of. So that then, as I go in and type a question, it can pull from my ChurnZero data. So here I say, all right, tell me about my biggest 20 accounts and write me an executive summary. And off she scuttles. And it writes this out for me. And then I'm able to engage in this like a conversation. I say, make it shorter, give me some emojis. I love some good emojis. And it's going to go ahead and adjust its output here. And then I can dive deeper into the data that it found. Like maybe I want to understand, all right, are there any CSMs I should be worried about when I look at these that are maybe most aligned with our at-risk customers? Great, it's going to go look at that. And I've got a new AI feature to sell. Who wouldn't be super mad if I showed up and talked to them about that? So it can answer these questions in a very conversational way, produce these outputs for me where you might be working. I think this will be especially powerful for those of you that want your CEO to stop asking you questions and instead just want them to be able to find their own data. All right, so what is next here? We are looking at starting to roll this out at the end of October. So please keep your eye on our release notes, on your Success Center that's inside your ChurnZero app. Your CSM will always have the latest, but we'll also reach out and talk to you as we do things. But I am going to make a special plea, and that is that to me this is just the start of the race. I'd love to hear your ideas. I don't care how out there they might be. I am in the business of hearing ideas, things you wish it could do, things you wish it could do differently. We believe the future of customer work is autonomous in some capacity for at least some of your segments, where you are able to really work with those customers without needing as many humans so that you can dedicate those humans to different tasks. So really, we think the AI of tomorrow is going to be a lot more about decision-making on its own, executing strategy on its own, executing strategy at scale. And for me, what I'm really excited about is getting our CX teams away from being coordinators and back to being consultants, because that's the work we got into this for.